Today we're talking about interest groups, what they are, what they do, why they matter, and why some people think they can be a problem. By the end of this, you should be able to explain not only what an interest group is, but how they operate, how they get influence, and how they shape American politics. Interest groups are organized groups of individuals or organizations that share common interests and goals. Their main purpose is to influence government decision-making and public policy. The key difference between an interest group and a political party is simple. Political parties try to win elections and run the government, while interest groups try to influence what the government does from outside. They don't want to be in office. They want to shape the decisions made by the people who are. Interest groups use different tools to influence government, things like lobbying, electioneering, public campaigns, and litigation. They come in many forms. Economic interest groups include labor unions, business associations, and farm bureaus that push for policies that protect jobs and industries. Public interest groups like the ACLU, Common Cause, or Greenpeace claim to represent the interests of society as a whole: civil rights, government accountability, the environment. Single-issue groups like the NRA or May-Day focus on one major concern and pour all their effort into it. Professional associations such as the AMA or ABA represent doctors and lawyers, while even government entities like the National Governors Association lobby Congress to support state priorities. Interest groups play several important roles in a democracy. They represent people who otherwise might not have a voice. Not everyone can go to Washington or Austin and sit down with a legislator, so interest groups act as the messenger for thousands or even millions of people. They also provide ways for citizens to participate in politics beyond just voting. When you join or support a group, you're part of the democratic process. They also serve an educational function. Policymakers can't know everything about every issue, so interest groups often supply research, expert testimony, and policy analysis. They also educate the public through outreach and campaigns. Interest groups help set the political agenda by drawing attention to certain topics: healthcare, climate change, gun rights, and through that, they influence what the media and policymakers are talking about. They monitor government agencies to make sure policies are being implemented correctly, and they act as watchdogs when they aren't. And in theory, by allowing many voices to compete for influence, interest groups help balance power so that no single group dominates government decision-making. But that balance isn't always equal. Wealthy and well-connected groups have far more resources, so their voices are often louder than everyone else's. That's where the criticisms start. To understand how interest groups fit into the bigger picture, let's look at how they differ from political parties. Political parties want to win elections and run the government. Interest groups want to influence policy no matter who's in office. Parties must take positions on a wide range of issues because they have to govern for everyone, while interest groups can zero in on a single topic or cause. Parties run candidates. Interest groups endorse, donate, and mobilize voters, but stop short of running their own campaigns. Political party membership is broad. People join because of shared ideology, while interest group membership is narrow and based on a specific concern. The theories that explain how interest groups operate fall into three main schools of thought: pluralism, elitism, and hyperpluralism. Pluralism is the optimistic one. It argues that a healthy democracy has many groups competing and that competition prevents any one group from controlling government. Elitism takes a darker view, suggesting that a small group of wealthy and well-connected elites, corporate leaders, big donors, political insiders, actually hold most of the power and use it to shape policy in their favor. Then there's hyperpluralism, which says that the problem isn't too few groups, it's too many. When every group is pushing for its own agenda, government gets gridlocked and can't make coherent policy. Realistically, we see some of all three at play in American politics. So, how do interest groups actually get what they want? Their main strategies are lobbying, electioneering, litigation, public outreach, and grassroots mobilization. Lobbying means direct contact with lawmakers or government officials to persuade them to support or oppose specific legislation. Professional lobbyists know the legislative process inside and out. Many are former lawmakers or staffers themselves. Some work in-house for a single organization. Others are hired as contractors to represent multiple clients. There's also grassroots lobbying, where groups try to rally the public to pressure legislators indirectly. Lobbyists provide lawmakers with information and research, help draft or amend bills, and often build coalitions with other groups that share their goals. They also provide campaign contributions through political action committees, or PACs, which is where lobbying and campaign finance start to overlap. Electioneering is when interest groups get involved in elections. They endorse candidates, donate to campaigns through PACs, and mobilize voters. Super PACs, thanks to the Citizens United decision, can spend unlimited money to support or oppose candidates as long as they don't coordinate directly with campaigns. Groups like the NRA or the Sierra Club are well known for rating candidates and sending out scorecards to their members before elections. Litigation is another tool, especially when legislative routes fail. Interest groups use the courts to challenge laws they see as unconstitutional or to defend existing rights. The NAACP used litigation to drive the civil rights movement, most famously in Brown versus Board of Education. Litigation allows groups to set legal precedents and shape public policy without needing a majority vote in Congress. Public outreach and education are all about influencing public opinion. Groups run advocacy campaigns, media ads, town halls, and social media pushes to get people talking about their issues. They create informational materials, organize rallies, and sometimes use celebrity endorsements to bring attention to their causes. The goal is to create a sense of momentum so that policymakers feel public pressure to act. Grassroots mobilization takes that one step further, getting ordinary people involved directly. That could mean protests, petitions, door-to-door organizing, or local meetings. It's democracy from the ground up, and when it works, it's powerful. It's how movements grow and gain legitimacy. Because interest groups have so much potential influence, there are federal laws meant to keep things transparent. The Federal Regulation of Lobbying Act of 1946 was the first attempt to make lobbyists register and disclose their activities. It was weak, but it set the stage. The Lobbying Disclosure Act of 1995 expanded those requirements, making lobbyists report who they contacted, what they discussed, and how much they spent. Then the Honest Leadership and Open Government Act of 2007 tightened things further after several lobbying scandals. It increased reporting requirements, raised penalties, and created cooling-off periods to slow down the revolving door between Congress and lobbying firms. Campaign finance laws, like the Federal Election Campaign Act and the Bipartisan Campaign Reform Act, tried to limit the influence of money, but Supreme Court decisions like Citizens United and McCutcheon v. FEC opened the door to unlimited spending by corporations, unions, and super PACs. The revolving door refers to how politicians and staffers often move between government jobs and lobbying firms. The concern is that they might use their insider connections for private gain, or that industries end up influencing the very agencies meant to regulate them. Ethics laws try to manage that through disclosure rules, cooling-off periods, and conflict of interest policies, but it remains a real concern. Ethical issues like transparency, corruption, and undue influence are always part of this discussion. When lobbying and campaign donations happen behind closed doors, the public starts to lose trust. The challenge is balancing legitimate advocacy with accountability and fairness. Now, let's look at how all of this plays out in real life. Take the National Rifle Association. The National Rifle Association, or NRA, is a textbook example of a single-issue group with enormous political power. They lobby Congress and state legislatures, spend millions on campaign contributions, mobilize their members, and run massive public campaigns around gun rights. Their influence has helped shape U.S. gun policy for decades, blocking or watering down many gun control proposals. The NAACP used litigation, lobbying, and education to advance civil rights. Their legal defense fund won landmark cases like Brown v. Board. They lobbied for major civil rights legislation in the 1960s, and they continue to fight for voting rights and equality today. Both groups show how interest groups can use different strategies to shape national policy, even when they start outside the halls of power. We also see interest groups influencing environmental policy. On one side, fossil fuel companies and business associations lobby against strict climate regulations, arguing they hurt jobs and economic growth, while environmental groups like Greenpeace and the Sierra Club along with renewable energy companies, lobby for stronger climate action. Public health groups add another layer by framing climate change as a health issue. All of these groups, working for and against change, demonstrate pluralism and sometimes hyper-pluralism at work. So, are interest groups good or bad for democracy? The truth is, it's complicated. On the positive side, they represent diverse interests, give citizens ways to participate, educate the public, hold government accountable, and help set the agenda. They can give voice to people who might otherwise be ignored, especially minority or marginalized communities. But the downsides are real too. Wealthy groups have more money and access, which can lead to unequal influence. Lobbying and campaign donations can blur the line between advocacy and corruption. Smaller or grassroots groups struggle to compete with big corporations and well-funded organizations. And sometimes, the sheer number of competing groups creates gridlock and polarization, making it harder for government to act in the public interest. At the end of the day, interest groups are a fundamental part of American democracy. They make it more participatory but also more complicated. They can strengthen representation or distort it. They can hold government accountable or capture it. The real question isn't whether they exist. It's how we balance their power so that democracy serves everyone, not just the loudest or richest voices. Interest groups influence policy not by winning elections, but by shaping decisions. They represent, educate, mobilize, and monitor. They use lobbying, electioneering, litigation, and outreach to push their agendas. And while they can make democracy more responsive, they can also make it less equal. The challenge for us, and for policymakers, is figuring out how to keep the good parts of interest group politics while keeping the system fair and transparent.